anything like me, you're always looking for solid investments, and you're starting to realize that Pokemon cards are really a great investment. So I'm going to tell you 5 alternative Pokemon to invest in that aren't Charizard. Because let's be honest, he's overrated. So even if you know absolutely nothing about Pokemon, chances are you still know who Charizard is. Who doesn't? I was literally at lunch with my grandparents the other day. Grandma told me that she knew who Pikachu and Charizard were, a fire-breathing dragon. And who doesn't love dragons, first of all? I mean, Game of Thrones fans, let me know. Now, if we add the fact that he was always problematic in the anime, you get a fan favorite. But this also means that most of his cards come with a premium price tag attached. Now, if you're brand new to collecting and investing in Pokemon, you might be at a card shop and see a Charizard card that you want to pick up because A, you know who Charizard is, B, you think he's gonna sell quick, and C, you're probably overpaid. You see, the Pokemon card market, for lack of a better terms, is manipulatable, just like any other market where people are gonna pay what they want to pay. Right now, the Pokemon community is the biggest it's ever been, and it's only going to keep growing with time. So it's only natural that as the community grows and more collectors start to bid on cards, prices are going to naturally rise. So without further ado, these are 5 great alternative Pokemon to invest in long term. We're looking at these as investments, not get rich quick. So the first Pokemon we're going to be taking a look at today is Mew. Now, not only does Mew have one of the best shiny sprites, some of the nicest artworks, but also some great shiny artworks. Personally, Mew is in my top 5 Pokemon list, so there's some slight bias involved, possibly. Now, this is a Gen 1 classic that is well loved by most, and if we actually take a look at 151, the cover art for that nostalgic set is Mew. So let's take a look at some really great Mew cards. Now, the first card we're going to be taking a look at is the Mew EX from Legend Maker. If we take a look at this 1-year graph, going from 75 for last sold a week of October 16th to the 22nd to the very next week, jumping all the way up to 150, back down to 140, and then jumping back up to 150, 155, 156. So if you got this card over a year ago, year and a half ago for $60, $75, you probably sold it for $150. And that's just 1 year. The next Mew card that we're going to be taking a look at is the Fusion Strike VMAX All Art. Honestly, a pretty slept on All Art. It's one of my favorites, but it's definitely underrated from the Sword and Shield era. Let me know what you guys think about this card. But if we take a look at it, back last July, it was selling between 65, 63, one dropped down to 60, one dropped down in February this year, all the way down to 57, and now it has been steadily climbing back up to where you're finding copies anywhere from $90 to $100 nowadays. So this was a great card that if you got when it first came, not when it first came out, because of course let me tell you guys something, when chase cards are pulled, when set is brand new, prices are absolutely, maybe not when it first came out, but once Fusion Strike started getting swept under the rug and people stopped wanting to care about it, you probably could have picked this up for 50 to 60 bucks. The last example of Mew that I'm going to use is Southern Islands promo card Mew, a card that has recently started to see a lot of trend upwards and hype because, like I said, Pokemon itself is growing. If you guys have seen the Time magazine, there it is. Time magazine. Pokemon is actually the largest media franchise in the world. The number I think is 100 billion. And then they used like the MCU, for example, it was like 36 and a half. So Pokemon is absolutely massive. And if we take a look at this Mew, last year you were getting the copies, mint copies, anywhere from 100 to 105, 106. Nowadays we're looking at 130, 135, 134. Yeah. So the next Pokemon we're going to be taking a look at, or the next Pokemons, or is there a politically correct term on multiple Pokemon? I guess it's just Pokemon. But the next Pokemon is multiple Pokemon, and if you guessed Eeveelutions, then you'd be right. Eevee is one of those Pokemon that's just universally loved. I mean, cute dog looking Pokemon that can evolve into 8 different forms. Each different form is its own typing, all with unique methods, unique abilities, unique moves. It's crazy. How could you go wrong when you're talking about Eevee? Eeveelutions are like staple Pokemon, and with new Evolving Skies 2.0, a little rumor from what I heard, supposedly there's an Evolving Skies 2.0 coming out. And I expect this to kind of got more hype into evolutions, even though they're already hyped up. But now we've all seen this card absolutely market having 12,000 copies available in a PSA 10 and still costing a whopping 4 figures, okay? Now, suggesting for you to go out and buy a Moonbryon, especially right now with the overinflated prices, but Umbreon is a solid investment as well as the other evolution. The most popular is probably going to be Umbreon, so we're going to be focusing mainly on Umbreon, but if we take a look at some of the most expensive cards, we'll see why. Now, like I said, I mean, is absolutely destroying everything we know about, or everything that we think we know about supply and demand. I mean, there are 12,000 copies of this thing in a PSA 10 alone. How many raw copies and 9 copies and other grading company copies are there of this card? There's no reason that the prices of this card should be so high. But here we are, and this is why it's a great example of investing, right? If you got this card last year in July, you could have got it for $600. Now, if we want to get a near mint raw copy, we're looking at about $875 to $900. The alt arts right now are not investments that I would suggest. We don't really know what the high points are and the low points are. We don't have a stable baseline for these alt arts because they boomed. Now we're starting to see them come down, but like I said in the last video, we'll have seller's remorse and starting to panic sell the little dip, and then once it gets to a point where they're comfortable, they'll start buying it back up and the price will go back up. So next Umbreon card we're going to take a look at is actually the OG Moonbryon. This one's sort of a slow burner where it's not seeing crazy jumps, but last year in July it was around 185 to 190, and this year it's about 230. That's on the unlimited version. So again, it's not a crazy get rich quick scheme, guys. We're gonna say this a million times on this channel. You're not going to get rich quick investing in Pokemon cards, and chances are nothing's good easy and nothing that's easy is good, or however the saying goes. The final card of Umbreon that we're going to be taking a look at is the Gold Star. This card is not really a great example of an investment that I would make getting into the hobby. Now, if you know what you're doing and you've been around the hobby for a while, a Gold Star Umbreon, you know what I'm talking about, is just, it kind of did dirty when they released Celebrations and did the reprint, but the original is just so good. Now, if we take a look at the Gold Star price back in February of 2021, most copies were right around the between 1,000 to 1,200 range. If we take a look at the peak, which was January 2022, we're seeing prices about 2,500, and then it dips back down, and then now it's sitting at around $2,000 to 2,200. So if this is a card you got 3 to 4 years ago between 900 to 1,000, 3 years later, you're looking at double your money. Again, this is one of the things that it takes time, right? It's just like anything. You're not going to go into stocks and make $1 million portfolio in your first month. It's just not going to happen. Now, this next Pokemon actually has a negative annotation to its name, but its role to the Pokemon world is much more vital than you might think. That's right, we're going to be talking about what some people consider the Pokemon Devil, Giratina. Giratina only recently started getting some love in the TCG with the alt art from Lost Origin and then the gold card from Crown Zenith. We got 2 really beautiful artworks of this card within the last couple of years, so it's only now that people are starting to really be Giratina collectors, if that makes sense. Besides the top 3 cards of Giratina, you can find a bunch of solid cards for less than $50. The first Giratina card we're going to be looking at is the Rainbow Tag Team Garchomp and Giratina from Unified Minds. Now, the Sun and Moon era of Rainbow cards were absolutely beautiful. They did a phenomenal job with those. And if we take a look at the price last year, July, we're looking at about 39, 38 bucks. And this year, right now, we're looking at about 47 to 48. So again, it's another one of those slow burners, but he only recently started getting a bunch of hype in the TCG with the artwork. So this is a card I expect to see with Giratina hype to start rising in price. One of my favorite Pokemon cards, the Crown Zenith Golds, they did an absolutely phenomenal job with, okay? These cards, I hope they never do another set of gold cards like this, because these cards are just so beautiful. The texture, the way they all fit together. Oh my. Now, the Crown Zenith Gold cards have kind of been really wonky because Crown Zenith is, I think it's still in print, or it's only recently stopped being printed. You can still sort of go in Crown Zenith pretty easily everywhere. So once Crown Zenith stops printing, and again the Giratina hype starts to build from his Lost Origin card, and I'm assuming he'll get more all arts or trainer galleries in the future, this is a card that I see just steadily rising. Steadily, I mean, just look at this card. So the next Pokemon we're going to be talking about is actually everybody's favorite Sky Pickle. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about before I get into it. Now, if you've ever played Gen 3, you probably know exactly who I'm talking about. The Lord of the Skies himself, Rayquaza. Rayquaza has gotten a lot of love when it comes to the TCG. I mean, he has artworks featured across many of the Pokemon eras. And with the recent additions of, it's 4th of July, by the way, so there's fireworks. Rayquaza All Arts, it brings a lot of attention to some of its other artworks, and one of the coolest Pokemon, some of the coolest artworks, and another one of the best shiny sprites. You have a recipe for a collectible Pokemon. So let's take a look at some of the best Ray cards. If you could get your hands on for a good price, I would jump all over them. So the first Rayquaza card we're going to be looking at is a great example of why I say to not invest in all arts right now. I'm not saying if you find one for a good price to not pick it up, or to when they stabilize to not get into the all arts, because they are beautiful cards. They are pieces of art. They are collectible, you know, with time to steadily go up. This card was going for about $250 on average until March. And the week of March 11th to March 17th is when the all art market really started to explode. This Rayquaza card went from $248 all the way to its peak $542. It's sort of dropping back down. Right now it's looking about $442 for market price. So if you got this card a year ago, $250 to $450, that's a great jump. But if you got this card a month ago, $550 to $450, just keep holding on to it, guys. I said it in my last video, don't sell something just to sell it because you see the price start to dip. If you need money, like you have bills, or you want to move on to something else, that's one thing. But don't just panic sell, guys. I mean, Rayquaza's got so many artworks that if I took my time to start going through them, it would take about 20 minutes. So I'm just going to pop up like 5 of his coolest artworks. Now let's get into this last Pokemon, which is actually one of the most popular Pokemon, and it's one of the cover arts for the best DS Pokemon game of all time. All right, I'm going to say it. The best DS Pokemon game of all time was Soul Silver. Now, if you didn't play Soul Silver and you have no idea who I'm talking about Lugia. So Soul Silver was a classic twist on Gen 2 that I personally loved. I think I played through that game about 3 to 4 times with a different starter each time. So let's really get into the collecting side though. We're not here for the game. Lugia is another Pokemon that has received a ton of amazing artworks that you should be on the lookout for. Obviously it's got some iconic cards such as the Crystal and the First Ed Neo Genesis that if you could find for a good price, those cards are insane. It's even got one of the best artworks from the Sword and Shield era, in my opinion. The all art from Silver Tempest. Keep bringing up the all arts because they really are great investments. It's just the market for them is so bloated right now. That's why I'm kind of saying to be hesitant when you're to all arts right now. Now, being that Lugia is a Gen 2 Pokemon, he's also received a ton of love in the TCG like Rayquaza because he's been around for so long and a fan favorite for so long. So if you were able to get Lugia cards when they initially came out for decent prices and you held on to them, those cards right now are absolutely booming, guys. Some of the most expensive cards ever sold, one of them on the list was actually a Lugia. And Lugia is just a card that it's going to continue to go up. Again, Lugia is another Pokemon that if I took my time to dive into a bunch of his cards, it would take me 30 minutes. So I'm just going to pop a couple up on screen. Let me know what your favorite artwork of Lugia was. Let me know what you guys thought about these alternative Pokemon to invest in. Was there any that you would have added? And is there any that you would have taken off? I appreciate you watching, and if you're interested in content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe so the YouTube overlords continue to recommend me in your algorithm. And if you're interested in getting into Pokemon investing, check this video out.